Alright, it's time for Hiru's Q&A number 36, a series in which I answer questions asked from my last video for a long time, about an hour or so. It's a very unpopular series on my channel, but it's very infrequent as well, so I don't really have to worry about it clogging up people's sub boxes, nor do I have to worry about really production values because it's super easy to make. All I do is just read questions here and then put stock footage from a stream or from when I was getting footage for something, and it's good to go. Funny enough, this Q&A series is actually my second least popular video on my channel. Least popular series. My least popular series is the Dave and DevBot series, by far. And Q&As are the second least popular because they're actually a little bit more popular than those videos, which take a very long time to make, which is so sad. That's why I've moved the series to a new channel. It just does not do well. But this series is like a series in which it's okay for it not to do well because it's not hard to make. The other ones are, though, so that's a little bit more of a problem. So my voice is finally okay. I wanted to make the video last week to go out last week because I didn't really put out a video because I got sick. And I completely burned out after making the Alteric Valley video. Because that video, I don't know, I procrastinated all week into making it because I thought I could do it in a day or two. And then I ended up spending a whole day writing the script, and then a whole day getting footage for it, and then like the next 4 days editing it together. It took a really long time to make. It turned out to be like a really long video too. I was planning on it to only be like 10 minutes, but it turned out being double that length. The video came out well though, so I mean, I'm happy with it, but it took a lot longer than I thought it would. It's also like one of those ones where, remember back in the day when I first started, I'd be like, I want to have a video out every weekend no matter what. So I would sometimes rush videos if I hadn't actually progressed on it that much throughout the week. And in fact, my number one video on the channel, the top 10 hardest raid bosses video, was a result of me rushing the video out because to have it done for the weekend. And I've regretted that ever since because it was my most popular video on my channel for so long. And it's not good quality because I rushed it out. Because I think the research took a lot longer than I thought it would to make. Because I had to look all over the place to see what people agreed were the best or the hardest raid bosses. I think very recently it got usurped. It's no longer my most popular video. Instead, my most popular video is the top 10 unkilled raid bosses in WoW. I don't know why that one did, but it's my most popular video now. It has like 5,000 more views than top 10 hardest raid bosses, and I'm so glad, because hardest raid bosses is not a good video. Visually, the information's fine, but I didn't really like it. Everything was rushed. I don't even have footage for most of the bosses. Top 10 unkilled raid bosses, funny story about that video. I was actually making two other videos, two top 10s that would basically just dealt with various bugs in early boss fights. And during making those two top 10 videos, I had a list of like which videos took which bosses took the longest to kill, which I came across a lot because a lot of the bosses in those other previous videos went so long unkilled because they were buggy as hell. So I was like, how about I just make a video after I finish these two videos about bugs, and just make a video about, the top 10 bosses that went unkilled for the longest. And since I just made these two videos about all these bugs on them, I know exactly why they took so long. I already have all the research done. And I also have like a lot of the footage too. I can just put this together real quick and just have it out as like a third video. And that's what I did. It was like one of the easiest top 10 videos I've ever made because I already had all the research done and all the footage recorded because I had created two previous videos that were very similar to it. And now it's my most popular video. And that's kind of crazy. Why does that always happen? It's always like the videos you put the least amount of effort into that do the best, just randomly. Okay, whatever. I'm already starting this off topic. So let's see, what does it say? My voice is finally okay. Fun fact, the Q&A is only my second most worst performing series. Yeah, I see, I actually scrapped a lot of this. It's not all completely random. Some of these tangents are planned. What jobs do you guys have? Why do I have this? I sometimes get random questions while I'm in a stream or something. I was like, oh, I should probably ask that in a Q&A, and I'll write it down. So right here it says, what jobs do you guys have? I think I was curious about the jobs of the people who watch these videos, or who watch my videos. Like, what do you guys do for a living? Because I make YouTube videos. This is what I do for a living. As surprising as that may be. And before this, I used to work at a water park. So yeah, I want to know what kind of jobs you guys have, because I think it would probably be surprising. Past me really wanted to know, so present me is asking. Let's see. Questions. Yeah, let's just get into the questions. Man, this first one's really long. Hey, Hiru. I just wanted to ask, how are you today? But that's rather boring and too mundane for you. How am I today? Do I really have to say anything besides good? I'm not going to go into all of the bad things that happened to me with my medical problems and... well, mainly medical problems. They're good, though. They're getting better. So how are you today? Good. Not really, but I'm not going to say anything else because I don't actually want to talk about my personal problems to random people. Instead, I'm just going to RP a WoW character asking you that. Hello there, priest. What lovely weather we have today. I wish it was colder. It's still hot. The weather sucks. It should be cold already. It's already December. Why is it not cold? How can I not drink hot cocoa already? I love hot cocoa, but it's too hot to drink it. How do you fare this time of peace and calmness? Semi-serious question 1. Do you watch live-action porn, or do you prefer hentai, since you're more into anime than Western entertainment? Hentai is all in terrible quality. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this. If they made some Shaft level quality stuff, maybe. But for now, no thanks. I do watch a lot of anime though, so that's a pretty legit question to ask. Because I know a lot of the people who also watch anime are pretty much exclusively into hentai. Semi-serious question 2. Are you bi? I don't think so. I sometimes talk about men in a admiring fashion, but I pretty much only like women. Really serious question 3. Have you retained some of your physical features from when you were playing football? No, not really. If anything, I weigh less than I did when I was in high school. Joke question. Well, that's because I was fucking full on... Oh, no, bad words. I don't want this... I was going to say, I don't want this video to be demonetized, but I don't make anything from these because I get so few views. I'm still not going to cuss, though. It's good to get into a habit of not saying cuss words anymore. You don't want to chance it. You don't want them to maybe look at your channel from one flagged video and start flagging everything else. Because they already flag videos enough as is. But yeah, I was a lot more muscular in high school. But I actually weigh a little bit less now than I did back then. Joke question 4. Will you marry me so I can move in with you? So you can become my sugar daddy and I don't have to worry about anything anymore? That was my goal for a long time. I'd always jokingly say that to people before I started doing YouTube. I was like, yeah, I don't want to work. I just want to marry a nice, big, strong, rich man or woman. I'm not gay, but, money is money, and I wouldn't have to work anymore. And if they were rich enough, we could just, hire a nanny if they want kids, and I can just play video games all day. Because that sounds like a life. Why would you not want to just play video games all day without having to worry about paying bills? I'd like to say that's what I do now, but I spend all my time editing or working on videos. I don't really play video games anywhere near as much as I used to. Back when I worked a normal job. Because with a normal job, you go to work, and when you come back, you don't have to think about work. You're done with work for the day. You can just do whatever you want. You think, man, I have all this free time. What should I do? For me, it's different because I don't take days off. So every day it's, man, what should I be working on right now? How about I play a little bit of a video game? And then every time while I'm playing it, I keep thinking, man, I shouldn't be wasting time. I should get back to making a video. And that's just me every day. I don't have free time, despite the fact that I take tons of breaks. It's just it doesn't feel like free time because I could be working. It's just like a different mindset. And I kind of miss having like the mindset of free time. And I can't schedule free time for myself either. I've tried a couple of times to take days off. It's just, even on the days off, I think, man, I could be working right now and not playing video games and wasting time. There have been times, though, where I've been successfully able to take some time off, like with new Diablo seasons. I used to get a whole bunch of videos done so I could just play Diablo for a week. But the problem with that is eventually I'd get out of work mode and I'd go into lazy, I just want to play video games all day mode. And then I would, it turns out I'm like a creature of habits. The reason I always want to work is because I've built good habits that force me to want to work all the time. And that's a good thing. And if I take like a week off to play video games, those habits will go away because those are not habits that are comfortable. Comfortable habits are a lot harder to break than uncomfortable good habits. So I can't just take a week off. Otherwise, it's not good for me. I'm going to have to build all those habits all over again. I know this because I've done it a couple times already. The exception, though, is when I went on vacation. When I went out to California with my family back in July, I could not wait to get home. I just wanted to get back to my computer. I think the vacation has to be like you enjoy all of the time you're spending away instead of going away. I mean, I had fun. I had fun at the vacation. Don't get me wrong. It's just there was so much downtime in which it was just boring. Like sitting down and watching TV, and I just kept thinking, man, I miss my computer so bad. I'd much rather just be home playing Diablo than over here next to the beach. But I did have fun in the beach too. I'm not like a negative person. If I'm in a situation, I try to make the best of it. So I had a lot of fun at the beach. I had a lot of fun at Disneyland. I had a lot of fun playing fighting games with everyone. It's just there was a whole bunch of other time where we weren't doing anything or just watching TV and I was just bored. I also just wanted to be in my own bed. But I did have fun. It's just not enough fun where I could have had more fun if I was just at my computer. But why was I talking about that? I forgot. I went off on another tangent. Okay, I'm trying to get back onto this. What's your thoughts about... Okay, I think this is where it is. This guy asked a whole bunch of questions in one. What's your thoughts about anthropomorphic animals? Should all humanoid animals and animals with human traits be called furries, or is it the wrong term? I personally think that furry should be a term reserved to humans dressing up in animal costumes, and not for drawn animals that have human characteristics. I am aware that the two terms are used interchangeably to essentially describe I can't say this word. Anthropomorphic animals, but I feel like it doesn't do justice to what I'm calling an original character that I created and identify with. I never thought of it like that. Should furries be called people who dress up in costumes? Or can you call a furry a character which is a humanoid animal? Well, I think what really matters is the colloquialism. The colloquial use of the word. How do people normally use it? That's what defines what it is. Because sometimes words change over time. You can say the textbook definition of a word, but that might not be how people use the word. And words, after all, are just a way for people to convey meaning, to get their thoughts across to you in a tangible sense. Words are a tool, not, like an unbreakable rule that must be upheld sacredly. So if a word means both of those things, it means both of those things, and you're just going to have to accept it. If you have problems with it, you're just going to have to accept it and stop having problems with it. Because colloquially, I can't say that word either. Man, this is why I script all my videos. Colloquially, it means both of them. So you're just going to have to get over it. Tech question 6. What smartphone do you use, if any? Android or iOS? I use an iOS phone. I also have an Android phone, though, that I use to watch YouTube when I'm in the bathroom. Like brushing my teeth and stuff. Sometimes. I don't bring it in there all the time. Well, that's all I got for tonight, because I've started RPing with friends on Discord, and we've created our own little world, and it is a lot of fun. Yeah, I bet. It's like playing D&D, I'd assume. D&D is a lot of fun. Don't know if we could introduce new people that aren't either A, following the story, or B, have any interest in interacting that way with others. Hey, there's a huge community at RPs. Good on you. I never shit on people for having any kind of hobbies or something they're passionate about, just as long as it's not hurting someone else. Or yourself. If you're passionate about cutting yourself, I'll probably disagree with you. If you're passionate about picking on people, well, I mean, I like to troll too a little bit, so I can't really... It all depends on the degree of it, I'd guess. Next question. Hello, some questions for your stream. 1. How come your favorite colors are the colors for bruises? Is it a coincidence, or do you just like bruises? Blue, black, and red. I'd assume that's a coincidence. Blue's a very popular favorite color. Is there a psychological way to memorize things easily? I am learning Spanish. I have no idea how to memorize the words every time we are taking a quiz or a test. 3. This is not a mandatory question, but could you prove the method in question number 2 by memorizing my name so that it would be easier for me to be a mod in the future? Yes, I am begging you. To answer your question for number 2, yes, there are ways to increase your memory. In fact, they have like a contest to see who can memorize. They have like memorization contests, and people will develop new strategies every year. And like they get so advanced with their memorization strategies that someone who won like last year would be able to completely demolish anyone from 5 years ago. Like it wouldn't even be a contest because the techniques have evolved so much over time. So memory is a trick that can be like manipulated. There are a lot of ways to remember stuff easily. It's not just rote memorization like they teach you in school. Rote memorization, of course, just means saying the same thing over and over again in order to memorize it. That's like one of the worst ways to memorize things, but it's the one they teach you in school because I'd assume a lot of teachers just don't know about the other ways to do it. But there's tons of different techniques you can use to memorize things. And I used a lot of them in college, and it made test a lot easier. The only problem I had with test was that it was super boring. That was my biggest problem with school, with college, is you had to study so much for all of the classes, which I didn't really have a problem with if I could study. But my biggest problem was I couldn't study because it was so boring. I'd rather sit down and just stare at my screen for like 3 hours and actually do the work because it was so boring. I just couldn't get myself to do it. And I probably have like some kind of mental problem because that's not normal from what I've heard. Because I don't hear of any other people who've had, the same levels of problems I have, because I planned out my day in order to study things. And I knew how to study. I planned like everything out, and I had a whole bunch of memorization techniques that worked. They were proven to work. It was so boring. I couldn't do it. My brain just like shut down on me and just would not let me study because it was too bored. And I probably would have helped so much if I had some kind of drug that just made me study like a normal person. Maybe I do have some kind of problem. I should have probably looked into that. Unless everyone else is like that and just no one talks about it. Do other people just stare at their books for hours rather than actually reading them because they're bored out of their minds? I don't know. Maybe. I can't be the only person who does that. I still did well in school. I don't know how. I ended up failing like my last year of Japanese, but only barely. I got like a 69%. because a D is not passing in college. So technically I didn't fail, I got a D. It's just I didn't get a passing grade, which is basically the same as failing. Hey Hiru, I have a question. In your anime list, you put part 1 and 3 anime of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So I wanted to ask, what is your opinion on part 2, Battle Tendency, or part 3, Diamond is Unbreakable, or have you not seen them? I don't like how my anime list separates things into seasons. So I probably just accidentally put both of those seasons in of JoJo, despite seeing all of them. Because I think it's kind of a waste of time to put all the seasons in and rate them individually, because who cares? I like to judge series like on a whole, not based on seasons. That being said, part 1 is probably the worst one, but it is an introduction to the story, and it's only the worst one because the other ones are just better, not because it's bad. It's like talking about which WoW expansion is the best. If you line them all up, sure. Vanilla WoW would probably be at the bottom because nobody likes... I should use that as an example. Anyways, I liked all parts of it. I think I like part 4 the most. Diamond is Unbreakable, just because I'm a huge fan of Slice of Life. And part 4 didn't take itself so super seriously like the first 3 did. But I also really like part 2. I also like part 3 because it introduced stands. And part 1 was good too, it was the worst of the bunch. I also read part 5 online, and it was okay. It was too action-packed. There was like no downtime. Every single chapter, they'd have a conflict with someone who had like an unbeatable stand, and then they'd find a way to beat it. And immediately after they beat him, a new enemy would show up and continue the plot. There was never any downtime, and it was just like... it's like they rushed the story so hard when they could have just added some more like downtime to it to flesh it out, to get to know the characters rather than them being in battles immediately all the time. And I was getting the same vibe from part 6. I've heard part 6 is the best JoJo, like by everyone. And I started it, but I just don't really care for it. It's like the same thing of part 4 again. It just takes everything too seriously, and it's just non-stop action. And I like it when there's some downtime in between all the stand battles. Next question. History of mage and warlock armors. I'm doing it for you, dude. This guy asks me this question all the time in like all of my videos, so I'm finally doing it. Just so he'll stop asking. Next question. I probably shouldn't use... should I say next question every time I go to the next question? I don't know. I used to eat fast food for every meal, and it's super expensive. Yeah, it is. I, too, have an addictive personality. Doesn't play WoW and watch your videos. Wait, what? I, too, have an addictive personality. Doesn't play WoW and watch your videos. Ever consider making a game? That doesn't make sense. You, too, have an addictive personality, and you play WoW while watching... I assume you're saying you have a addictive personality, plus you like my videos, which is, yeah, that's great. I like it when people like my videos. I mean, I know I say that, but like, I'm pretty sure all YouTubers say that, but a lot of them just straight up mean that. Ever consider making a game? I'm pretty sure everyone's considered making a game. I have 2, it's just like not super seriously. Whenever I think about making a game, I think, man, the amount of time that would involve going into making a game would be enormous. I just keep thinking of like all the videos I've made, which took a crap ton of time to make. And I think making a game would be like making 50 videos. It's just so much time, and that just deters any thought I have of ever wanting to make one. Because you think about all the time that would go into researching how to even start making one. And then you have to research everything else into that. It just seems like a huge pain in the ass. And it's like, no thanks. I'm good with what I do. It seems like it would be a fun thing to do, but completely unreasonable. Okay, next question. Do you also love Arathi Highlands, as you mentioned how you like plains? Not really. I don't care for the Arathi Highlands. Have you ever gone roller skating? Sure have. Used to get rollerblades all the time when I was little. Surprisingly, considering how poor we were. I'd always have like a brand new bike every other Christmas. Same with rollerblades. Or roller skates. Hey Hiru, what's your World of Warcraft story? Sorry if this question was in one of your Q&As. I'm trying to think. It probably has been in a Q&A before. My World of Warcraft story. Let me gather my thoughts on that real quick. I'll try to summarize it. Alright, my Warcraft story starts off with this game called Fallen Sword. It's like one of the first videos I have on my channel. If you go to the channel page and go like sort by date added first, that should be the first video on there, like a tutorial for how to play the game. And in that game, guilds were a very important thing. And in the guilds, we had like a guild forum. And you had to be active because guild slots were limited, and guilds were very beneficial for you, but they were also very beneficial for the guild itself, so they could not accept unactive people in the guild. Like, you had to be constantly grinding in order to, give the guild its benefits, because at the same time you were getting lots of really good benefits from being in the high-level guild. That being said, on the forums, you had to basically tell them if you were going to go offline for a couple of days and for what reason. So it was very active. And they would always bash WoW. Like, they would always take pot shots at it. Because that was like the big MMO on the market. Because Fallen Sword was technically a browser-based MMO. Thinking back on it, it wasn't very good. And it was completely pay to win. Like, people complain about pay to win, but you've probably never played a game like Fallen Sword where you could literally pay money for more power. The game didn't have level caps either. So you could just keep leveling up. The way they kind of restricted it was they just didn't have content to level up like past level 300. Like, if you killed all the monsters in the zones, you'd eventually just get to a point where the experience gain was just not enough to level you up until they released more content. That was kind of like a soft level cap on it, except for the people who paid crap tons of money in order to get like level boosts. Well, not level boosts. You couldn't buy levels, but you could buy ways to boost your experience with money and stuff. And yeah, you could just buy power too. You could just straight up buy better stats. Buy gear that you couldn't get anywhere else. I spent a lot of money on that game too. That was back when I first got a job. Anyways, I said I would summarize this, and I'm going on a really long tangent for like the first part of it. Anyways, I did not have a favorable opinion on WoW, because in that video game, everybody always bashed it, or they would talk about how they used to play WoW and they quit. And they enjoy Fallen Sword so much more. And then one day, I got like a free trial for WoW in my mailbox. And my little brother asked if I could install on the computer. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? So I installed it and I tried it up and I played a Tauren, Hunter, and Mulgore. And it was so much fun. I just loved exploring it like crazy. I am a huge sucker for open world games. I don't think I really knew that until I played WoW. Because I just explored like crazy. Plus, plains are like my favorite landscape, so if it was really anywhere else, I probably would not be playing the game because I had such a low opinion of the game. That if I had started like in the orc starting zone with all the stupid, dumb cactuses and desert, I would be instantly turned off because that landscape's garbage. Same with trolls. Their starting zone sucked. Forsaken would probably be fine. I don't know. The human starting zone's not half bad either. So was the Night Elf one. But man, was the Tauren starting zone the best. And it was because of that I kept playing, and then I got addicted to the game like crazy. But in high school, I was super busy. Like, I played football and other sports. I also had a part-time job on the weekends, which I sometimes had to go to on Fridays. So I'd have to wake up at 5 o'clock to go to school because we have to be in the weight room by 6 o'clock. If you weren't already doing your first set by 6 o'clock, you had to run after practice. So, we'd have weight practice from 6 to 7, and then we'd have like an hour to get ready before school started. where you basically just took a shower and ate breakfast. And then you had school. And then after school was over, you had football practice, which could last from like 3 to 7. So you had like 4 hours of practice after school. And then I got home like around 8, and I had to go to bed early because I had to wake up at fucking 5 o'clock in the morning because, God, I hate waking up early. I hate it so much. I did that for 5 years and I never got used to it. You would think, like, you do it long enough, you eventually just get used to it, or you eventually start missing it, but no, I hated it. I hated it every single day, and I never got used to it. And I was so glad when I didn't have to do it anymore. I did not miss it. It was just the worst. I don't think you'd miss it if you had to stab yourself in the leg every day, and then finally you don't have to do it anymore. You wouldn't be, man, I do miss stabbing myself in the leg for the past 5 years. No, you'd be like, finally, I don't have to do that shit anymore. That's how I was when I was finally done with football. Oh, good memories when that was over. Anyways, so I have to go to bed in a couple hours, so I didn't do homework at home because I was smart and I actually did it in class. I don't get why people don't do that. They give you so much like downtime in between when they're talking or like the couple of minutes before class is over. That's time in which you can get all your homework done. That's also how I get my studying done while the teachers were giving lectures. I'd be like, well, I have a test in my next class. Better brush up on it right now because I am not doing this shit at home. There was no need. I got straight A's. I was an honor roll student. I never did homework at home. So when I got home, I had free time after... I only had like a couple hours of free time. And in that couple of hours, I'd go on WoW and just play and explore everything and level up. And it was so much fun because I used to play Pokemon too. So like one of my favorite things to do in Pokemon was to grind. Like, I didn't have my own Pokemon game. A friend from school let me borrow it, and he liked that I would grind characters for him. And WoW was like unlimited grinding. There was no limit on how much you could grind, because in Fallen Sword, you only had so much stamina you can spend per day to go out and actually fight monsters. Since like 90% of your experience gain was from killing monsters. There were quests, but you'd probably see like one quest every 5 levels. You basically grinded monsters for everything. And then once you reached your stamina cap, you basically waited for it to reset for the next day. Of course, you could reset the stamina cap with money, because it was a pay-to-win game. But I rarely did that. I say rarely, I did do it sometimes, though. But in WoW, there was no limit on how much you could grind. You could literally kill monsters all day if you wanted. And I thought that was awesome. That combined with actually being able to explore a giant world, it was the best. And I would avoid all contact with other people because, I mean, I liked my fellow players in football well enough. They were all very nice. Like, there's a stereotype in, like, American movies where the jocks and football players are all, you know, bullies or mean to everyone else. But my school was, like, the complete opposite of that stereotype. There were no popular kids. Everyone just kind of like had their own little groups. There was no bullying problem, and all the football players were, well, not all of them, but like half of them were like some of the nicest people you'd ever meet. And even the ones who were jerks were like they were just normal people. They just weren't super nice like everyone else. There was no problems with them. It's just the only thing I had with them is I didn't have anything in common with anyone on the team. Because I had a lot of very unconventional hobbies, and I was never shy about letting people know about them. So they all knew I played WoW and played Pokemon. In fact, like before games, I'd bring in a chess set, my PSP, and 2 DSs. And basically, I'd give my chess set to whoever wanted to play chess with each other. I'd give my PSP to whoever wanted to play Madden on it. And then I would play Pokemon battles with whoever wanted to do that, because both of the DSs had Pokemon games on it, so we just do, 6-on-6 Pokemon battles. No one, they all knew I was a huge nerd, and they all didn't care. Not that I would have cared if they cared or not. I was always very confrontational, too. I was like, just try and make fun of me. I really want you to try to make fun of me, because I haven't been in a fight since I was in like elementary school, but no one cared. I was like, oh, that's fine too, I guess. Just as long as you're not annoying about your hobbies, people generally don't care. That being said, was very starved. I mean, emotionally drained from pretending to be interested in other people all day just to be generally nice, because I did avoid everyone like in the first year and they all thought I was quiet or shy or something. So I was like, I don't want to have that kind of connotations associated with me. I'm going to, attempt to fit in. Why not? No reason not to. So when I finally got home, I didn't have to try to be someone who was friendly anymore, and I could just shut off socially. So I used WoW as like a game to unwind and just relax and just grind mobs and level up, and it was so much fun. And despite it being an MMO, one of my favorite things about the game was that it was basically just a really good, single player game. I didn't talk to anyone. I avoided having to talk to anyone if I could. I didn't make any groups leveling up because I didn't want to talk to anyone, and because I just didn't want to deal with people. WoW, coincidentally, was like my escape from having to deal with people, despite it being, a very social game. Same thing with work, because at my old job, at the water park, a lot of the things I had to do were like daily. I'd have to give instructions to groups of people. So I had to talk to tons of people all the time at the registers and also when I had to give instructions. So it was lots of public speaking, and it was just nice to not have to talk to anyone anymore. So I know like a cornerstone argument for vanilla WoW servers is like they miss the community and having to talk to everyone to do anything. And that is like the complete opposite thing that I liked about the game. I hated talking to people in WoW, and I just didn't do anything if I had to do it, because it was a really fun game to just play by yourself. And that's still kind of what I do. I usually don't talk to people inside the game, despite having no problems talking to people in real life. Or, it's just fun to... I don't know, there's a lot of people I've seen who are a lot more, like, talkative online than they are in real life. And I'm the complete opposite. I'm super quiet in-game, but I have no problems talking to people outside of the game. Mainly because, well, that's a whole nother social thing. And that's basically the WoW story. I was too busy to really raid or do anything, and I hated talking to people. So until high school ended, that's when I started raiding. And then I went in hardcore. I was in 2 different raid teams. I raided nightly and like in the afternoon. Both of the raid teams were hardcore, and we were all racing for server first heroic kills. That was fun. Yeah, like the year after high school was probably the best year of my life, because I just played WoW all week. Because I also didn't go to college right after high school. I took a year off because I was just so tired. I burned out so hard from high school because I was at school for, how long is that? From 5 to 7? I was at school for like 14 hours a day. That is insane. And 5 of those hours were spent doing physical activities. Plus I worked all weekend. I had no free time. If I had to go back in time and relive high school again, I would immediately quit football and not work, because it was just too much. I was like, I don't know how I did that. I've never worked as hard in my life as I did when I was in high school. And even now, I complain about all the time I spend editing and everything, but it's still nowhere near compared to high school, where I was just always tired. I could not stay awake in some of my classes because I was just so sleepy all the time. I was super addicted to caffeine, and it just didn't do anything. And I'd sometimes bring a Monster Energy with me to school so that I could chug it right before math class because it was so boring. I could not stay awake, and even that wouldn't work sometimes. Oh, I do not miss being tired all the time. That's for sure. In fact, I thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, I shouldn't be this tired all the time. But no, I was just super overworked. You shouldn't be that active. It's too much. You shouldn't do sports and have a part-time job at the same time. It's insane. You never have any time to recharge. That's why it was so nice to, like, after high school, for that year before I went to college, all I did was have my part-time job, and I basically just worked on the weekends. So for like the 5 days and the weekdays, I woke up and played video games all day, which meant just WoW. I think I only played WoW at that time. And it was glorious. It was everything I'd ever wanted. I loved it so much. I wish I could just go back in time and go to that year before I started college and everything. Even when I was in college, it was pretty nice too, because once I had all my homework done, I could just play WoW, which was no problem, and then just work on the weekend. Man, I was so happy. I wish I could be that happy again, back when I didn't have any medical problems. Oh, it's so nice just thinking back to that. Oh, what happened? I know exactly what happened. Let's see. That's my WoW story. WoW was my escape from people, so I didn't use it. A lot of WoW stories I've heard, it's usually like they were shy in real life or something, and they'd go on WoW and they finally had people to talk to. Mine's basically the complete opposite. Let's see. Next question. They probably won't be as long as that one. Hello, Hiru. Have you read the Berserk manga? If so, how did you like it? And how do you also read webtoons heavily based on manga? I did try to read Berserk. You see, the thing is, I read mangas before I go to bed. Like, at 12 o'clock at night, I have a rule where I stop working, which is funny because I just said earlier that I never actually stop working, except this is an exception to that. At 12 o'clock, I have a rule where I'm not allowed to work anymore or play video games. So I can do pretty much anything else I want as long as it's not work-related in any capacity, and it's not a video game. This is so that my brain can actually shut down, and I'm not in work mode before I go to bed. Otherwise, I'll just keep thinking about scripts or some stupid editing thing, and I won't ever go to bed. My brain would just constantly think about it. Or video games either, because sometimes I'll just keep thinking about the video game, and I won't go to bed because my brain is playing the video game, and it's so annoying. I hate that feeling. As long as I just don't do that for like 2 hours before I go to bed, I'm good to go. So what I usually do in that time is read. Like at first, I used to like watch anime, but I don't do that anymore. I do that sometimes though, if I'm trying to catch up on something. But 99% of the time I read. And like 90% of the time it's manga. And when I was reading Berserk is really dark and edgy. I mean, it's a good story. I'm not going to give it that. But it's too dark. And it was making me think about, all those gruesome torture scenes before going to bed, which was not good. Because I read, before I go to bed. So I have to be very careful about what I read before I go to bed. Because if I keep thinking about the story, because the story was also really interesting too. So I kept thinking about like what's going to happen next. And that's also not good before I go to bed. So I had to stop reading it because it was too good. And because it was too gory and like too dark. And that's not good. I don't want to have nightmares. I have like a really bad problem with sometimes I'll just go months at a time where I just die in my dreams all the time. It's not fun to constantly die in your dreams. So I try to avoid that if I can. I didn't have any problems with that with Berserk, but I had other problems where I just couldn't stop thinking about it because it was good. Plus, it was too gruesome. The art is also very detailed, so it was very detailed with its gore. And do I read any other webtoons? I do. I'm not really sure if they're technically webtoons, though. Like Mouso Telepathy and Tomo. Also, Tower of God. I haven't really read that, though, in years, though. But I did like it before I stopped reading it. Next question. Worst battle pet other than the Elec plushie? The Elec plushie is good. I don't know why you think it's bad just because it doesn't have any damaging moves. You see, the Elec plushie has the highest health pool in the game. It also has a free swap with no cooldown. So what it is, it's a perfect pet on a team which has pets which are low health and are entirely reliant on cooldowns. Because you can use the Elec plushie to swap in to get hit, and then free swap into your pet that has all the cooldown abilities and have him pop all his cooldowns, and then swap back into the plushie to take all the damage. And that way, you get pets to come in and use their cooldowns while only getting hit like once. And then you can just swap back into the plushie to take all the damage, and it actually works out very well. And I've had a couple of teams that were able to not only compete with top tier teams, but completely destroy some of them. Like, they could not beat me. Alec Plushie is really good on teams that you know how to use them with. But worst other battle pets, I was actually thinking about making a new series on my Pet Battle channel where I choose like some of the worst battle pets and then try to make a winning team with them. With the restriction of not using any tier 1 pets though. I think that'll be interesting because I already tried a couple times and I've been able to make a couple of teams where I was like, oh, this actually doesn't work half bad despite this one pet being terrible. Like the pocket cannon or the spores or snails. Those are all really terrible pets. And it was really hard finding pets to put on a team with them that weren't tier 1. So I think I'm going to have a really good tier 2 list done after I'm done with this because I keep trying to pair them up with really good pets that aren't tier 1. I was like, that's my biggest thing right now is just looking for pets that are really good that aren't tier 1. Okay, so next question. Hottest WoW women and hottest WoW men. Hottest WoW women, Lillian Voss, obviously. Hottest WoW men, Rathian. He's cool, I guess. Next question is, take the $4,000 and just do a sponsored video sarcastically in a way that lets us know it's a bunch of crap. Corporate sponsors won't pick up on it. Corporations don't really understand the concept of irony. You see, the thing is, if you take a sponsorship video, you have to talk about it in a positive light. That's just kind of the deal with sponsored videos. If you talk about it sarcastically, that's just going to look bad on you. It's not good PR, and no one's ever going to want to do another PR video with you again. A sponsored video again, I mean. And, I mean, sure, the corporation's probably stupid, but the marketing people know what they're doing. It's their job. Alright, I'm back. Sorry, I had a really huge coughing fit that I hopefully edited out of this. What was I talking about again? Oh, sponsored videos. I mean, the thing is with sponsored videos, generally, you only want to do one on a game that you like or think is not half bad beforehand. You don't want to accept the sponsorship deal and then play the game and be like, man, this game is shit. I can't believe I did this. I should probably cancel this video. That's a good thing. If you accept a sponsorship deal, you want to research the game first and then decide to do it decide whether or not to do it. Because you have to talk about it positively. There's like no way around that. And, well, I mean, I'm not 100% against sponsored videos. It's just, I haven't really been offered any ones that I really liked. I only mentioned that $4,000 one because that was a lot of money. I've never really been offered that much before. I mean, some of them offer a lot of money, sure, but not, $4,000 for one video levels of money. So, next question. Have you ever considered making a face reveal on any of your channels? Why or why not? A face reveal? Man, I've never been asked that question before. Hey Hiru, been binge watching all of your videos 3 times these past few weeks because my life is pretty much your channel now. So keep up the good work. You're going to like it when I upload 12 videos for 12 days in December then. And for the question, if your WoW servers would ever go down, what would be one of the last things you'll do before it all ends? Where would you park your character to stay for all eternity? Definitely Mulgore. I love that place. I started there and I'll end there. Also, you binge watched all my videos 3 times? That's good. I actually make all my videos so that they can be binge watched. That's like my number one priority when I make them. It's like, I need to make sure the outro is short. That way people can binge watch easily. I want my videos to be made in a way where you can just click on one of the playlists and watch it all without any problems. Without having to go and skip. Because there are some YouTube channels where I'd love to binge their videos, but they have like 1 minute in-video ads that can't be skipped. Because they're talking about a sponsorship deal. Like, oh, and here's our sponsor for today, Squarespace or Audible, Blue Apron. Side note, I use Audible. I like that service. It's actually really good. I also use Blue Apron. I also use a couple of the other things they advertise. Because a lot of them are pretty good services, like Crunchyroll. I've been a subscriber to them for years. They advertise a lot of other people, YouTubers. So what are the advertising things? I know I use Crunchyroll. That's a good video service. I use Audible, because I love audiobooks, and their daily deal is really good. And I use Blue Apron, because I need to eat healthier, and I hate cooking. And they basically give me pre-portioned size meals that I can create myself. It's perfect for me. And I also use this one stock footage website that was mentioned on another video, but I forget the name of it. I think those are the only 4. I also used Linda once, and that was really good. I can't really think of any other ones. See, this is why they pay to advertise these things, because people like me buy them. Or check them out. Okay, so where was my next one at? Oh, I think I was talking about how, I don't like to do those in my videos because there are other people's channels I watch where I'd love to binge watch their videos, but they talk, about their sponsors for like a minute or two at the end of their videos, so I'd have to skip. So I just don't binge watch their videos instead. And I think, man, I really shouldn't do that to my videos because I want them to binge watch because I get so many of my views from binge watching. Because I built my channel that way from the ground up. And I think that's a really good way to build your channel. You should build your channel with the intention that people will binge watch all your videos someday. That's just my suggestion. Probably not smart though. There's a lot of things I could be doing to get more views or more traffic or more viewer engagement, which would make the videos a little bit less binge watchable, that I don't do, which are probably not smart. So I say, do it, make your videos binge watchable, but it's probably not the best idea, technically. Next question. Hiru, I have a question. You never shut up about having the Eye of Divinity trinket. Yup. Every time I make a video with ghosts, I mention it. With good reason. Seeing ghosts is pretty neato. But did you ever get the benediction of anathema? Can't be bothered to Google how it's spelled. No. You see, I just got brought to a random molten core run on my priest back in Wrath, and it dropped for me before it got removed. And so I had it. And that's basically it. I don't think I really played my priest super seriously back then. I was still a hunter main. And so I never bothered to do the quest chain. I probably wouldn't do it today either, because I don't really care about old content like that. Last question actually. Hiru, do you ever feel bored in WoW? And what made you not to quit, except YouTube? There was one time where I was almost about to quit. Like in Mist of Pandaria. And that's because I was hanging out with a friend of mine a lot. And a lot of the time she wanted to hang out was during raids. And I kept thinking, man, it'd be really nice if I wasn't raiding, so I could go hang out and do other stuff, because I was having a lot of fun at the time. And I don't think I really liked the raid we were doing. I think it was like Throne of Thunder or something back in Mists. A lot of people like the raid, and it was like advertised as like the next Old War, but I never really cared for Old War. And I also never really cared for Throne of Thunder. Despite, I like the lore of the Thunder King and everything, but at the time, I didn't know his lore, and I didn't like his fight, or the place. I just didn't really like Mists. I don't like the Chinese aesthetic. I don't like anything about Mists, really. The looks of it. But the lore is really good. When I finally actually looked into it later on in the expansion. But that was the time when I was thinking about quitting, because I didn't really like anything else in the game. Because I didn't like having to do all the daily quests. I didn't really care for the farm. I didn't really care for all the content that was being released. And I didn't really like the raids. That all changed though when Siege of Orgrimmar came out, because I really liked that one. Siege of Orgrimmar was great. Plus, that's also when I started doing YouTube videos. Because I eventually got fired from my job around that time too, and I started making YouTube videos as a way to fight off the depression. So, if all that didn't happen, I might have quit back in Mist of Pandaria. That's also like when my guild stopped raiding too. And I ended up joining a different guild with a friend from work that I no longer worked with since I got fired from that job. And I still raid with them today. So that was like the only time I got close to quitting, because I didn't really like, the downtime stuff in Mist of Pandaria until I got into pet battles and making videos and stuff like that. And then I got much more into it. Other than that, there's just so much to do in WoW. Like, a lot of people ask, what do you do in WoW? Because I'm bored in it. Usually, all they do is raid and nothing else, despite the fact that there's so much to do in the game. Do I really need to give you things like there's PvP, old raids, and farming mounts, getting pets, doing pet battles. There's so much pet battle content. People like think it's a point of pride to say they've never done pet battles before. And it's like, why would you be proud about not doing something? You're not better than everyone else for not doing pet battles just because it's like Pokemon. Get over yourself and try it. You might actually like it. Probably not with negative pre-existing thoughts to it, but it's really not that bad, and it is a very different system from Pokemon, and I actually prefer it over it. And there's so much to do with it, but Blizzard needs a better like PvP system for it. Okay, anyways, at the end of these videos, what I wanted to try to do from now on was like a new segment. Stories from my life that probably don't come up often. Basically, like I go off on a lot of tangents and I'll talk about stories from my life, about things I've done. Because I've done a lot of things with my life before I was a YouTuber. You know, with a mom who was a drug addict, and we used to move around a lot. I've experienced a lot, and a lot of it just doesn't come up in videos. So I thought I would just think of something. Like, I have a whole list of things I could potentially like make videos of someday if I ever make videos like the Odd Ones Out or Dominic's, where they like draw out their lives, where they just tell stories about their lives, but they use animations to show it. And I was like, oh, I have tons of stories like that too. So let's see. I have 2 of them written down right here. The time my mom came into a job interview with me. That one's embarrassing. Why I don't set high expectations, or expectations for that matter at all. Oh, that's not really a one. I can talk about that one real quick. So, what I like to think is it's never really a good idea to have expectations for things, because they can only ever be met or, disappointed. Because it's like, oh, wow, I am really excited about the new raid. And then you go do it, and you're like, oh, well, that was the raid. It was cool. I'm so glad I was excited for that, I guess. Or, if it sucks, like, man, I'm so disappointed, and I was so excited for this too. Gosh dang it, I think it's better to just have a neutral state with these kinds of things. So I try my best not to have high expectations for anything. But it's human nature to, be excited for something you like. Like, there's no way I can't be excited for the new WoW expansion. But I'll still temper my expectations to it. But anyways, what this story is times in which I've had high expectations for things, and when I finally got them, they were even better than I could have hoped. So, 2 examples come in the form of Zoid's Battle Legends for the GameCube and One Punch Man. Because you see, when I was a teenager, I had really liked, well, I actually really liked it when I was a kid too, this anime series called Zoids, which is basically giant robots that were in animal shapes who fought each other with they fought in melee attacks, they fought with guns, laser beams, and missiles. It was literally like the coolest thing ever. And I just ate that shit up. It was so great. And I watched both of the animes they had for it, and I remember seeing a Zoids game in the store one day. But I didn't have enough money to buy it, and I thought it looked cool. And I used to literally have daydreams about like what the perfect game would be, and mine was always like a Zoids game, in which you get to build your own Zoid and have like, you get to customize it, put armor on it, put on like a shield generator, or, change out your guns for like a hyper beam or something. And I literally just like have fun thinking about how I'd customize my Zoid. And every time I went into GameStop, I'd make sure I had $20 to buy the game, because I always saw what the price was. It was always usually like $20. And they'd never have it. It wasn't a very popular game. And back then, I didn't know that most licensed games suck. So I had very high expectations for this game, despite never playing it or hearing anything about it. The only thing I knew about it was that it was a Zoids game. And I was like, man, I have built this game up so big in my head because I literally daydream about a game in which I get to play with them and actually go out and shoot other Zoids. And I thought that would be so fun. So every time I went to GameStop, I would go straight to the GameCube section and look in the Z's and then be disappointed because it wasn't there. And then I'd just browse around. And every time we went to like a new shopping center, I'd have my mom drop me off at GameStop and I'd go straight to the GameCube section, check the Z section, and I wouldn't find it. And I could never find it. I always made sure I had enough money to buy it just in case. But like it literally took me almost a year before I finally found the game. Like it was just a daily routine at that point. Every time I went into GameStop, I would go straight to the GameCube section and look at the Z's and not find it. And it was just a ritual at that point because I had done it so long without ever finding it until one day I finally found it. And I was like, oh, wow, they finally have this game I've been looking for like over a year that I know nothing about, that I just want to try. Do I really want to spend money on it? I was like, yeah, of course I do. So I bought it immediately and I went home and played it. And the Zoids game was even better than I had imagined. Like, they had all the things I wanted. You got to like play with characters from the anime that I watched. And the other one that was completely different universe. Like, they had both of the animes I'd watched as like two separate tournament modes you could play through. And I was like, that is awesome. And they had all of the Zoids from both of those animes. I was like, that's great. And they also had a crap ton of other Zoids that weren't in the animes. And I was like, that's even better. And you got to buy them all with points you earned from playing through the campaign mode or the tournament mode. And you got to upgrade them. You got to do more armor, put speed boosters on them or shields. You got to change out their weapons. And you got to go around and fight them. And the combat was very like fun and responsive and really easy to do. And it was literally the best thing ever. It was like the perfect game exists, and it's Zoids Battle Legends. I was so excited for it. I had been looking for it for so long, and it was even better than I had thought it would be. Because it even had like 2 different story modes in addition to the the tournament modes, where you got to play through like both sides of a conflict. Everything about the game was just so good. I don't think there'll ever be a game that good again. And I totally like lucked out with that because it was a licensed game. It just happened to be made very well. And so the only other time in which I had high expectations for something and they were exceeded was with the One Punch Man anime, because I had been reading the manga for years before it was ever announced. Because the person who draws One Punch Man also drew iShield 21. And for those of you who don't know, my profile picture for YouTube is a character from iShield 21. He's the quarterback. He's named Hiruma. That's what the channel is named after. Hiruma. Also with a red X at the end, but it has nothing to do with that. So, of course, I'd follow the guy who drew iShield 21, and he also drew One Punch Man, and his drawings were so good. Like, if you were going to do like a comparison of who does the best manga drawings, One Punch Man the One Punch Man manga would be up there with the likes of like Berserk, because Berserk is also very well drawn. I personally think One Punch Man's probably better. The art is like godlike. You could probably hang up some of his panels in art houses and people are like, man, that is a very well drawn picture. Because it's so good. So, excuse me. So when they finally announced an anime for it, I thought, there is no way they can possibly top the manga. Until I saw a promo video for it, and it was so well done. I was like, oh wow, this might actually do well. And then I finally watched the anime, and I was like, wow, they exceeded my expectations. I didn't think they'd be able to do it. The manga was so good. It was some of the best drawn things I've ever seen, and the anime managed to live up to it. Man, I was so surprised. Actually, I don't think I really had high expectations for that. I think I was just pleasantly surprised that it was better than I thought it would be. which was nice. Also, let's see, what is the other one? It says, the time my mom came into a job interview with me. I guess I can talk about that one real quick before I end this off. I mean, the video's already over an hour. What's wrong with it being an extra 5 minutes? So, this was like towards the end when I was working at the water park, because my water park job was the only job I've ever had. Not counting YouTube, of course. So I worked there for like 5 years. And I was still working there while I was in college. That was like a place you only worked when you were in high school or something, because they only paid minimum wage. I only made minimum wage the whole time I worked there. So I still lived with my mom at the time. So she made me like apply to other places to get a better job. And I couldn't really disagree with her. I was like, yeah, I probably should get a better job. So I applied at places. She made a convincing case. I'm not stubborn. If someone makes a good argument for me to do something, I'll generally do it. I like to keep myself open like that. And this was something where I was like, yeah, I probably should have a better job. So I went and applied to a bunch of different places. And like one place called me back for an interview. And it was for like some electric company that made... Not an electric company. Some company that made electronics. I don't remember what they did, but they called me in. And at the time, I don't think I had a car. And since my mom was the one who bugged me about getting a new job, she offered to drive me to the interview. And I was like, okay. I really should have asked more questions about what she would do while I was at the interview, but that didn't really seem to cross my mind because, I mean, what is she going to do? Go in with me? So she drops me off and I walk into the place and there's only like one receptionist there and there's like a little lobby. I was like, oh, I'm here for an interview or whatever. They're like, okay, fill out this paperwork over there on the table. So I was like, okay. So I go over to the table and I start filling out the paperwork. And then my mom walks in and she goes up to the desk and they're like, can I help you? And she's like, yes, my son is here interviewing for a job. He's right over there, and points to me. I was like, I'm not getting this job. I was like, I should probably just leave. Like, this isn't a minimum wage place where usually moms walk into it. It's, you know, just a legit business with normal people doing, you know, adult work stuff. They don't have mothers walk in to the interviewing place. And the receptionist was like, okay, you can just go sit down over there while you wait for him to be done or something. She's like, okay. I was like, oh, what do I even do at this point? Do I just leave or do I just do it anyway? I was like, she's the one who drove me here. What am I going to do? Go up to her and say, well, we need to leave now because there's no way I'm getting this job. It's like, I might as well just stick it out, I guess. So I filled out information and I finally got the interview. Interview went, It was okay, I guess. They asked normal interview questions. I think I harped a little bit too much, though, on how I don't like drama in the workplace. Like, that was totally unnecessary. I probably should have not been so intense about that. I also couldn't have been very good for me. And then we left, and surprise, surprise, they never called me back. So yeah, that was fun. Ever since then, I've always driven myself to interviews because I can't trust my mom to not do something stupid like that. And that's it for the video. If you have any questions for the next Q&A, I'll probably make it like next month or something. I've pretty much decided this is a monthly series now. You know, it used to be every 2 weeks. So until then,